Hello, everyone. We're Matt and Lisa Jacobson.
And this is Faithful Life Podcast, Marriage Weekend Edition, where every Friday we take just a few minutes to talk about one simple way for you to enjoy a better weekend together. Hello, everybody.
Hey, friends.
Hey, Marriage Weekend is upon us.
Yes, it is.
We're going to have a great weekend, aren't we, babe?
I sure hope so.
All right. How about you listen out there? You guys going to have a good weekend? All right. Well, that's the whole point of Marriage Weekend. We are just looking at one little thing that is going to make a big difference in your marriage. And so, but before we dive into this, we kind of wanted to talk to you about a little bit of, just kind of the good stuff going on in our world. What's going on, babe?
Hey, we've actually had a really exciting week because, as many of you know, our new books released on Tuesday, October 1st. And so they've gone really well, and we're very excited about it. The books are 100 Ways to Love Your Husband, 100 Ways to Love Your Wife. And then the other set of books, because they're companion books, are 100 Words of Affirmation Your Husband Needs to Hear and 100 Words of Affirmation Your Wife Needs to Hear. And if you try to buy those as bundles on Tuesday they were released, you probably saw that they were sold out before the day even got started. So that was a bummer for some people, but they're back in stock. So if you missed out on the opportunity, we want you to know that they are available on Amazon, and they've greatly discounted them to kind of to make up for running out of stock on Tuesday. So.
Well, and in case anybody's interested, it is kind of fun. Can we say this?
I think so. These are friends, honey.
All right. Well, here's the deal. They are number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the marriage category for new releases.
Yes.
And so we're kind of excited about that.
We're very excited. And we're so thankful for all of you, those of you who are listening and those of you who have just encouraged us along the way. That just thanks for your support and the amazing reviews we've gotten. It's just, I don't know what Matt and I were expecting, but you have totally exceeded and blown away our expectations. And we're just thankful to God for just his goodness in that way, but also just thankful to you who have helped us get the word out. So that's really exciting. In fact, Honey, do you have that review? Do you want to read a review?
You know what? I really do, because
there's a couple of really neat testimonies. They're more than a review. Like, these are what I would, just beautiful testimonies of how God's already working through these books.
Okay, so just a review. 100 Words of Affirmation. Your wife needs to hear 100 Words of Affirmation your husband needs to hear. That's one bundle. And then 100 Ways to Love Your Wife and 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. So they've gotten just tremendous reviews, and we're really excited about the ministry that these books have had in marriages. And so just to reinforce that, we have got a review here. It's a new review. And this is on the bundle for affirmations for your wife and your husband. We wanted to read this to you because it really blew us away. I mean, just bottom line, that's what happened. So this woman writes, and she says, these books are a blessing from God. But here's what she says. After 11 years of a difficult and rocky marriage, my husband and I weren't sure if we wanted it to continue. After a very long discussion, after a huge fight, we resolved to do whatever we could to save our marriage until the end of the year. If it didn't improve in that amount of time, we would separate. The next day, I was invited to be part of the book launch team for Matt and Lisa. This was a miracle from God, in my opinion. I read the wife books first because if they weren't correct, I didn't want to give them to my husband to read. Okay.
Right.
In little insider trading there.
Right.
All right. But I'm happy to report that they are 100% accurate to what a wife wants to hear and see from her husband. At least this wife does. When I read the husband books, I didn't realize how encouraged and humbled I would be. I finally understand what my husband has been wanting and needing to hear from me and to see from me, and now I have the tools to meet those needs. I didn't realize how much I was taking him for granted. When I gave the books to my husband to read, we took the time to read a few together, and it brought us closer together instantly and has given me a lot of hope for our future. We're appreciating each other more, and our love for one another is being renewed a little more each day. I'm so thankful for God placing these books in our path. If you're looking to improve your marriage, I wholeheartedly recommend these books by Matt and Lisa Jacobson. They're easy to read. They're just a page or two, each entry, so you can quickly and easily go through the book in less than a day, but I recommend that you take your time and really show each one and really allow each one to enter deep into your heart, to meditate on it and pray, and then put it into practice and see how your spouse reacts. The past few weeks have been a very positive experience for me and my husband as we've been reading these books. So anyway, just
Wow,
awesome, right?
that's beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Lord.
anyway, that's just a little bit, and there's other reviews you can go and online and read the reviews, and we were really touched by that, and we hope you step out and get a copy. Actually, you don't even have to step out; you can just order them online.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, what we're talking about today is a way to change your thinking, to think about your wife, and we're actually kind of focusing on the husbands today a little bit. All right, so going into the weekend, this is about having your mindset in the right place relative to your wife and relative to your responsibility for and toward your wife. And just think of it this way. Okay, we're talking about a wife's heart, and we're talking about it being depleted through everything the wife pours out in all of her multiple relationships. Think of it this way. A pitcher of water and a wife are alike. Both pour out until they're empty. The wife fills the pitcher. Who will refill the wife? Is there a wise man in the house?
That's right. Yeah, I think that's very much how most women feel. It's just that we're pouring out all the time. And I think if you're a guy, it's easy to think that your wife is just like you, that she can just soldier on day after day, going for weeks without meaningful, loving care. It's also easy to fall into the pattern of thinking, and I've heard this before from men, just saying, my wife is so emotionally needy. She's constantly wanting my time and attention, even though I give her my attention all the time.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, first of all, we need to recognize something. We need to recognize that our all the time and your wife's all the time are two very, very different things. It takes...
That's for sure.
Right?
Yes.
It takes us way less, typically, for our all the time to be all the time, right? And our wives typically a lot more. It doesn't always work out that way in every marriage. Typically, the guy requires far less connection time and communication time than his wife does. And typically, it's not always that way, but that is the typical lay of the land. But the fact is, for most wives, her needs are just different. She has different needs than you do.
And she's pouring out her care, her heart and soul in relationships all day, every day. I mean, it's what her engine runs on. In large measure, the pouring in must come from you, the husband, which is the most important relationship she will ever have.
So, yes, you took her out last week. So, great move. Okay, time out. Guys, did you take your wife out last week? Okay. I know you probably thought it would be really great and it'd be a huge blessing, but did something get in the way? Did you make her that priority? Did you take her out last week? And if you did, good move. And that connection, and let's just be real, the sex that you've enjoyed with her since then has kept you, tanked up, quote unquote. You don't need anything more. But for her, last week was, last week. And sex since then, even though she enjoyed being with you, isn't what her heart needs today. It's not what she is looking for now. It happened back then. You had that emotional connection back then. But remember that pitcher? Remember that pouring out? That is happening all the time with your wife. And so just because you're feeling tanked up doesn't mean that her emotional tank is full.
Yeah, I mean, to put it frankly, no woman can remain emotionally and relationally fulfilled on past expressions of your love, commitment, and care. It doesn't count like you think it does. For her, the past connection was great, and she appreciated it, as in I appreciated it, but she needs a present connection with you today, this week, and next. It's just how we're wired.
It's just funny how, as guys, we can just think, hey, we had that connection. It just lasts for us. It lasts longer for us. And, maybe we went out on a date and we thought, we connected, had a good conversation. We're good to go. We're good to go for way longer, typically, than our wife is good to go. But think of it this way. How often do the two of you have sex? For the average couple, it's 2 to 3 times a week. You may have a, different kind of schedule, maybe more, maybe less. But wherever you fall on that scale, if you have a healthy sex life and you feel that communication is positive, you're basically happy, right? As a guy?
Yeah, I think when a husband is happy with his sex life, he tends to think, oh, my wife's happy too. It's just so easy to think that because your needs are fulfilled. So are your wife's, right? After all, the There haven't been any emotional outbursts or blow-ups recently, which used to drive me crazy. So I used to feel like, do I have to scream to get your attention?
That's hypothetical. That never happened in our marriage.
We'll leave it there, okay? I mean, you looking around as a husband, I think you think, oh, the house has been running smoothly. She's not crying.
Exactly.
Everything must be great.
Yeah.
And thinking like this is a huge oversight. And I think guys make this mistake all the time.
Exactly. Just because you're married to a good woman and she isn't freaking out doesn't mean that her heart has been well tended and well looked after and her emotional needs have been met. And here's one you can take to the bank, guys. Sex may fill most of your emotional needs, sex and a little bit of communication, but sex will never fulfill your wife's emotional needs. She needs vastly more than that. And sometimes, we need a good jolt alongside of the head to get that through. Mm-hmm. So think of it this way. What if your wife came to you and said, okay, honey, from now on, we're going to have sex once every 3 months. I don't need or want it more than that. So that's what we're going to do. And you'd go like, wait, 4 times a year? Are you kidding me? And you'd be bugged, angry even, wouldn't you? I mean, let's be real. You're wired for sex, and the deprivation would make you crazy. After all, it's an important element of how you are connected to her on an emotional level. It's something that you need. It's something that most guys need. And again, I don't want to put everybody in this category because we've certainly heard from many wives who are more interested in sex than their husbands are. But for the average guy out there, this is a fundamental part of being connected with your wife.
Yeah, I mean, emotional connection through meaningful, interested conversation and careful attention to things that make her feel loved is every bit as important to her as sex is to you. It's how she's connected to you at that heart level. She's not just a wife, she's a woman. And she's pouring out constantly to you, to the kids if you have them, to extended family, to friends, to coworkers. She needs you. She's counting on you to be engaged, to care for her at just that deeper heart level. And that is what fills her emotional tank.
All right. So we want to go back to that pitcher analogy, that pitcher that's being poured out all the time. You as the husband, you are pouring in. She's pouring it out in all kinds of relationships every day, and it's your job to pour back in. So what does it take to fill your wife's emotional tank? Do you know this? Have you had a conversation? That's what we're going to encourage you to do. And we also want to, what were you going to say, babe?
Well, I'm just going to say, if you're a woman listening to this, I mean, obviously this is directed primarily toward the guys, but if say your husband is not listening to this and you are a wife who is, then one way that this conversation I think can really benefit you is it can give you categories in how to express that need and desire that you have to your husband. So you could even give him the pitcher analogy, because a lot of times I feel like the light goes on for a guy. He goes, okay, that makes sense to me, that whole refilling the pitcher thing. Mm-hmm. Also, I think as a woman, you feel like, why would I have to keep reminding him how much I'm pouring out? And I don't know why, but I don't think you should feel badly if you do have to remind him, because sometimes Matt and I have this kind of conversation.
Hey, I have needed reminders. Mm-hmm. I absolutely have needed them.
And I've had to realize it's not because you don't care, and it's not even that you don't recognize or grateful. True. Sometimes you're kind of in your world of responsibilities, and you just lose track is maybe a better way to put it, of how much I'm pouring out.
I would say lose track, and I would also say it's just so easy, so natural to get into that mindset of, hey, we're great. We've had good communication and our physical life is in order and she's not freaking out and we're just doing great, rather than truly, seeking, in our case, to set aside that time to really communicate together and to be together and to walk together and just to enter in to heart-to-heart communication together. So remember the picture, guys. Remember that it's pouring out all the time. So going into the weekend, be thinking, how can I fill my wife's emotional reservoir, her emotional tank? All right? And we're going to encourage you to have a conversation today. Talk to your wife. Ask her, are there any things that I do that make you feel like your emotional needs are met? Or is there anything that I can do, that I can do better, that will make you feel like your emotional needs are met? See, this is a super healthy conversation, and you probably feel like you've had conversations like this in the past, especially if you've been listening to this podcast. We're really encouraging these conversations, aren't we? But even if you've had one as recently as a week, it's just encouraging to your wife when you check in, because what you're really doing is saying, hey, I care about you and where you're at right now in this moment, and I want to do everything I can for you to feel loved by me, for you to feel filled up by me. So it's an ongoing conversation, and so go into the weekend and have this conversation with your beautiful, awesome bride.
And if you're a wife, be ready for this conversation and be ready to give him specific ways that he can win at this. Because if you just, shrug your shoulders, throw up your hands, say, I don't know, or you just never talk to me, things like that, it's not helpful. It's so much better to be able to say, you know what, I would love if we spent 30 minutes each evening after the kids were in bed and just talked about our day. Like, be specific and have it something that's really doable so that he goes, hey, I can do that.
Yeah.
So that's another way to help that conversation go really well and start new patterns that are encouraging and loving for both of you.
So look up. God's plan for you is to have a great weekend together. Part of having a great weekend is communicating in a way that makes the other person feel understood. And so we're encouraging you guys, take the lead this weekend. Go in, have an awesome weekend together. Okay? All right. Thanks for being here. And just remember the names of the books. 100 Ways to Love Your Wife, 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. You could buy those as a bundle together. And 100 Words of Affirmation your wife needs to hear, and 100 Words of Affirmation your husband needs to hear. They are truly discounted right now as an introductory discount to such a degree that I don't think you're going to see that again for some time. It's the lowest I've ever seen books discounted, and so you're just going to want to check that out.
Yeah, I think you'll find them encouraging, practical, and just really building in your marriage. So
yeah, and go read the reviews. They're encouraging. They're really great. Anyway, listen, have an awesome marriage weekend together.
All right, God bless.
God bless.